the liaison guy's getting whacked and he's got to get whacked because he's getting for the same reason that Jelly Belly's getting. You want to challenge the administration? You will meet the challenge.
Back in the 80s and 90s, something wild was brewing in New York. The rap game and the mob world started crossing paths in a way nobody saw coming. Thanks to the explosion of Hollywood gangster flicks like The Godfather and Scarface, a whole new wave of rap was born, mafioso rap. And when Raekwon dropped Only Built for Cuban Links in the mid-90s, he didn't just ride the wave, he owned it. Fans still say it's the ultimate mafioso rap album, packed with that gritty mob energy and real loyalty vibes. The love and the trust is there, son. That's how deep it ran. But here's where things get spicy. That same album almost dragged Raekwon and his whole crew into some serious beef with the actual mafia. Word is, the real-life bosses weren't too happy about how close the music was hitting home, and they had to remind Raekwon's team to cool it and fall back. But let's be real, these dudes weren't the type to fold under pressure. They came from a place where if you had to throw down, you did. They were always ready for action. That crew? None other than the legendary Wu-Tang Clan. They hit the rap scene like a stick of dynamite, loud, raw, and completely different. Put together by the mastermind RZA, Wu-Tang made their radio debut in the early 90s with Protect Your Neck and shook up the whole game. Their style was like nothing else. Gritty street tales, crazy beats, and wild influences like kung fu flicks. Just 4 days after meeting Steve Rifkin, Loud Records locked them in. That's how unstoppable they were. For a group with that many members, it's crazy how each Wu-Tang artist had their own style, their own voice, and still managed to vibe together without ever messing up a track. Their chemistry was straight up unmatched, and that's what made their first album, Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, blow up in 1993. The rawness, the grit, the energy, it hit different. And here's the genius part. Steve Rifkin worked out a one-of-a-kind deal where every member could sign solo deals with other labels, not just Loud Records. That move was unheard of at the time. In the end, only Raekwon and Inspector Deck stayed solo under Loud, but the setup let the rest of the crew move fast with their own projects. RZA and GZA already had solo stuff out before Wu-Tang even linked with Loud. These dudes were hustling non-stop. Then in November 1994, almost exactly a year after 36 Chambers dropped, Method Man was first out the gate with his solo joint Tycall, and it slapped. The following year, 1995, was legendary. Old Dirty Bastard, Raekwon, and GZA all dropped solo albums that shook the game. Raekwon's Only Built For, Cuban Links, dropped in August, sandwiched right between ODB's return to the 36 Chambers in March and GZA's Liquid Swords in November. All three albums, straight up classics. No skips, just heat. Wu-Tang had already made a name for themselves with that gritty, raw sound mixed with Shaolin movie vibes and wild aesthetics. Method Man and ODB kept that same energy going strong with their solo drops after 36 Chambers, so naturally all eyes were on Raekwon to do the same. But Raekwon, he had other plans. Instead of sticking with the kung fu theme, he wanted something real, something that truly showed what life was like growing up in his world. And so when Only Built for Cuban Links dropped, it hit different. The storytelling was deep, personal, and grounded. Nothing like Wu-Tang had ever done before. No martial arts flicks this time. Instead, Raekwon drew straight from the streets, from mob movies and the heavy mafia presence in Staten Island where he came up. You could feel that influence in every beat and bar. And get this, the album wasn't even supposed to be called Cuban Links. Raekwon originally wanted to name it Wu Gambinos, inspired by the real-life Gambino crime family running things in New York at the time, but that name didn't fly. Steve Rifkin, whose father had real connections to the Gambinos, made a few quick calls and came back like, yeah, that ain't happening. Looking back now, fans say Only Built for Cuban Links was the perfect title. It hits harder and carries deeper meaning. And when Raekwon talks that mafia talk, it's not just for show. He lived that. Ever since he was young, he saw real violence. His cousin even shot someone for messing with Raekwon as a kid. That life was all around him. So yeah, knowing all that, it makes sense why Raekwon wanted to name the album Wu Gambinos at first. But in the end, Only Built for Cuban Links wasn't just the better name, it meant more. On the album's 25th anniversary, Raekwon revealed that the title actually came from one of their own lyrics, straight from the bars. That just shows how real and connected the vision was. What made this album even more legendary was Ghostface Killah's role in it. He wasn't just a guest, he was basically a co-pilot. Ghostface showed up on 12 of the 18 tracks, riding shotgun through the whole journey, and from the jump, Raekwon showed how much he valued him. When he got that $500,000 advance to make the project, he immediately gave Ghostface half. That's loyalty. Why? Because they weren't just collaborators and they were practically family. They grew up just 15 minutes apart in Staten Island, hit the same high school, and saw the same streets. Since this album was all about Ray's personal story, who better to help tell it than someone who lived it too? Ray and Ghost didn't treat this like just another rap project. This was serious. They even flew down to the Bahamas to lock in and write the whole thing. They shared a room, put their heads together, and crafted a classic that still echoes today. Back in the day, Wu-Tang usually kept it raw, recording in RZA's basement studio old school style. But for only built 4 Cuban links, Ghost and Raekwon needed a new vibe. They wanted something fresh, something different. And RZA was still right there, deep in the mix like always. But this time, he had to level up. Raekwon was aiming for a more grown, refined sound, and RZA delivered that fire. See, RZA had this famous 5-year plan for Wu-Tang. Each member was supposed to lock in with a different audience. Method Man, he was the one to grab the ladies and the younger crowd. GZA, he was the intellectuals, targeting heads in college and deep thinkers. As for Ray and Ghost, they were the ones repping for the streets, the gangsters, the ones living that hard-knock life. And sure, Ray and Ghost did bring that gangster energy in full force with this album, but that didn't mean they wanted to be stuck in a box. Every member had their own path, and they wanted the freedom to explore it. For Raekwon, that path was straight-up cinematic. His favorite movie was The Godfather, and during studio breaks, he'd be locked into flicks like Scarface or The Killer, soaking in the mood. That movie influence, it crept right into the music. The score from The Killer even made its way onto the album, especially in the opening track, Striving for Protection. That vibe set the tone from the very start, only built for. Cuban Links kicked off strong with a cinematic story. 2 drug dealers plotting one last major score before disappearing from the game. That track instantly set the vibe for the whole album, dark, gritty, and real. Then came Knuckleheads and Knowledge God, which took things to a whole new level. In Knuckleheads, Raekwon tells a wild tale of 2 hustlers robbing a bank and double-crossing their own crew. And guess who showed up on that track? U-God, who was bouncing in and out of jail at the time. He even admitted he saw himself as a straight-up knucklehead back then, so his feature hit hard with authenticity. Next up on the album was Criminology, one of the early singles that dropped before the full project, and it was a monster. RZA called it the track that really made Ghostface Killah pop off. His verse, straight fire. The beat, insane. It quickly became one of the album's standout cuts, and Raekwon says it reflects who he is to the core. Then came Incarcerated Scarfaces, and another track with a wild beat that had Ray feeling it so much, he handled all 3 verses by himself. No Ghostface on this one. It was Raekwon's personal shout out to all his boys who were locked up during that time. The title, a nod to the classic Scarface film, and Ray didn't stop there. He always made sure his people in prison felt seen. Wu-Tang even once performed inside a prison, turning up with the inmates. And when it came to vocals, Rainy Days brought in the soulful voice of Blue Raspberry, one of the 2 tracks she blessed on the album, the other being Glaciers of Ice. Rainy Days was one of those special tracks Raekwon penned while he was out in Barbados, and you can feel the mood in every word. Talking to XXL, Ray painted the picture. When we wrote Rainy Days, I think we was already out the country. We was in Barbados by the water when we had that good villa right off the ocean. 3, 4 in the morning, I'm wind blowing, curtains blowing, and we just really got a chance to put it down. The scene was peaceful, but the lyrics, deep and raw. Ray explained the song was about how women in the hood might not always show it, but they're caught in the struggle too. Sometimes they're trying to pull you back from the grind, but other times they get caught up right along with you. He said, this is going to be perfect for the struggling girl who can't understand her man. He a thorough.
Wu-Tang represents a sword style of rhyming, man. The Wu is the way, the Tang is the slang, the Clan represents the family, man. We call it a sword style because we are lyrical assassins, and we are aware at the tongue that's symbolic to the sword.
That's why they added that skit at the start of the track, pulled straight from a movie, where the girl says, I sing for him, and he isn't here. He ain't here because he making money. He trying to put some food on the table. That line hit deep. The next track, Guillotine, Swords, and it went crazy. This was the only track on the album featuring Jeezy, and he absolutely snapped on his verse, along with a killer drop from Inspector Deck. Raekwon called this one a symphony. Real smooth, real elegant, with bars all about that high-class lifestyle. And check this was the first rap album to ever shout out Cristal Champagne. That flex was next level. Then there's the Can It Be All So Simple remix, a powerful cut where Ray and Ghost opened up about the real pain of trying to leave street life behind. It wasn't all about money and fame. This was about the struggle to change. Track 10 on the album, Glaciers of Ice, and this one was special. It marked the official introduction of Cappadonna to the world. He was supposed to be part of Wu-Tang's first album, but he was locked up during that time. Still within the crew, Cappadonna had a solid rep. Everybody knew he could body any MC in a lyrical face-off. His pen game was no joke. Now fast forward to track 16, and then we have to talk about this one. Even though Raekwon couldn't name the whole album Wu Gambinos, he still made sure that title lived on through one of the hardest tracks on the project. Wu Gambinos featured a dream lineup: Master Killa, RZA, Method Man, and Ghostface Killah. This track pushed that Mafia energy even further, exactly the vibe Ray had in mind from the start. Raekwon explained where the name came from too. He said the Wu Gambino aliases were inspired by his love for the film Once Upon a Time in America, with Robert De Niro and James Woods. He admired how those young kids started with nothing, came up from the gutter, but still had messy relationships with each other. It was raw. It was real. That movie energy stuck with him. As for the names, Tony Stark's came from Iron Man, while Lou Diamond's was Ray's way of flexing. Back then, he was heavy into icy jewelry. He started giving out slick nicknames to the crew, and since it was his album, he made it clear, if you're on this track, you need an AKA. It was like stepping into character for a mob movie, though, but through rap. This right here, this was that Wu Gambinos energy in full swing. Raekwon had nicknames for everybody, and each one came with a story. He said, I would call Master Killa Noodles and GZA Maximilian. Just like the characters in the movie Once Upon a Time in America, Noodles and Max were tight partners, and Ray saw GZA as the mastermind, always dropping knowledge. He was like the brains of the crew, always saying something real smart, so I called him Max. Inspector Deck got dubbed Rolly Fingers, all 'cause of the slick way he rolled his blunts. And then the rest of the crew caught on. U-God went by Golden Arms, and others just started picking up their own aliases. RZA, Ray called him Bobby Steels. Now, said he was on that militant Black Panther type wave, but behind the boards like a DJ and a mastermind producer all in one. And now we get to Ice Cream, hands down the most popular track on the whole album. Ghostface, Method Man, and Cappadonna brought flavor to that joint. It was catchy, smooth, and just hit different. Even though Ray wasn't really feeling the idea of doing a track for the ladies at first, he gave in, and it turned out to be one of the biggest hits on the project. Then there's Verbal Intercourse, a historic track that featured the only outside artist on the entire album, Nas. This one was huge. Nas and Ray had serious respect for each other. They used to pull up to each other's neighborhoods back in the day. That bond added real weight to the collab, and it helped shape this album into something legendary. And let's not forget, one of the coldest parts of this LP, that iconic purple tape. When the record officially dropped, it came on a purple cassette, instantly turning it into a collector's gem. Raekwon made a genius move. He dropped the album on a purple cassette tape to make it stand out. That idea came straight from the streets, inspired by how some dealers would mark their product to separate it from everything else on the block. That purple tape, it became legendary. To this day, fans don't even call it Only Built for Cuban Links. They just call it the purple tape. That's how iconic it is. This wasn't just an album. This was a moment. Raekwon didn't just drop a classic. He created a whole genre. Mafioso rap was born out of this, a bold twist on what Wu-Tang had already built. He mixed that cinematic flavor, those grand, dramatic movie samples, RZA's next-level production, and storytelling so raw and real, you could feel the streets in every verse. only built 4 Cuban links, pushed the Wu-Tang legacy even further while cementing Raekwon's name in the Rap Hall of Fame forever. And yeah, look at the coincidence. Wu-Tang still repping Staten Island heavy, even now. The influence runs deep. If you made it this far, you know this album is more than music. It's a piece of hip-hop history, so don't forget, subscribe, like, drop a comment, and share this video with anyone who needs to understand why the Purple Tape changed the game forever.